On August 2, 1934, President von Hindenburg's death signaled a turning point for Germany. Within days, Adolf Hitler seized absolute power, merging the roles of president and chancellor into the title of Führer. General Ludwig Beck, a decorated veteran of World War I, initially supported Hitler. He longed for a strong Germany and felt a well-equipped army would act as a check on Nazi paramilitary forces. Beck's star continued to rise. In 1935, he earned the title of Chief of General Staff for the newly renamed Wehrmacht. His task was monumental: rearm Germany after the humiliating restrictions of the Versailles Treaty. Beck's commitment to a strong military initially put him in step with Hitler's agenda. As a traditionalist, Beck bristled at the creeping politicization of the military. Alongside General Werner von Fritsch, commander-in-chief of the army, he sought to preserve the military as an apolitical force. But by 1938, Hitler cemented his hold on power. First by purging War Minister Werner von Blomberg, then orchestrating the removal of Beck's ally von Fritsch. Ludwig Beck found himself dangerously alone, facing a chilling reality. The Führer's unchecked power was leading Germany down a path the general could not follow. Ludwig August Theodor Beck was born into a long line of military men in the Wiesbaden suburb of Biebrich, Germany, on June 29, 1880. His destiny seemed etched in stone: a career in the officer corps. In 1898, he joined a renowned Prussian field artillery regiment, receiving his commission in the following year. Beck's brilliance was recognized early on, earning him a coveted spot at the elite War College from 1908 to 1911. The outbreak of World War I thrust Beck into the General Staff, showcasing his operational brilliance, notably on the Western Front from 1916 to 1918. In the chaotic aftermath of the armistice, the relatively young major was tasked with the monumental mission of orchestrating the withdrawal of 90 German divisions back across the Rhine. Despite his accomplishments, Beck's personal life was marked by quiet tragedy. A brief honeymoon followed his 1916 marriage, cut short by a swift return to duty. The joy of his daughter's birth in 1917 was overshadowed months later by his wife's sudden passing. Reserved and intensely focused, Beck immersed himself in his work. The restrictive Versailles Treaty forced major shifts within the German military. The German army, the Reichswehr, was drastically downsized, and the General Staff was cleverly disguised as the benign-sounding Troop Office. One of the few officers retained, Beck found himself rotating between field commands and assignments within this covert General Staff. His intellect and meticulous nature made him indispensable. From 1919 to 1922, he worked directly under Colonel General Hans von Seeckt, a key figure in reshaping the Reichswehr into a corps of elite leaders ready for future expansion. Beck proved instrumental in modernizing military doctrine. His 1931 to 1932 revision of tactical manuals placed renewed emphasis on mobility and offensive strategies. This work culminated in 1933 with the publication of Truppenführung, or Unit Command, which would become the cornerstone of German military strategy throughout World War II. This manual, a blend of ancient wisdom and modern strategy, remains a cornerstone of military doctrine worldwide. Its emphasis on mission command tactics urged commanders to communicate the objective while empowering subordinates to determine the execution. While seemingly counterintuitive in the rigid German military structure, the Wehrmacht adopted this approach with unparalleled success. Yet, as technology advanced, so did the debate on tank warfare. Traditionalists like Beck favored close infantry support, while visionaries like General Heinz Guderian championed independent panzer operations. These internal disagreements foreshadowed a shift from the theoretical framework of the manual towards a more adaptive and integrated battlefield strategy. Despite Guderian's later criticisms, Beck acknowledged the power of armored warfare as early as 1934. The formation of the 1st Panzer Divisions in 1935, during his tenure as chief of the Truppenamt, underscores this evolving tactical perspective. It seems Guderian overstated his struggle against a rigid Beck regarding Panzer Divisions. These divisions were a direct manifestation of the drive to rearm, which Beck supported. Alongside the evolution of doctrine, a far greater threat emerged: Hitler's National Socialist movement. Despite his initial naive optimism about its potential, Beck never joined the Nazi Party. He witnessed firsthand the growing chasm between his ideal of a strong, traditional German military and the political reality taking hold. August 2, 1934 marked a turning point for Germany. President Hindenburg's death paved the way for Hitler's absolute control. He abolished the office of president, merging its power with that of chancellor to become the Führer. Beck initially supported this move. He believed a strong leader was necessary, and a well-equipped military could act as a check on Nazi paramilitary forces. Beck's star continued to rise. In 1935, he was appointed chief of the General Staff, now called the Wehrmacht. His task was monumental, rebuilding Germany's military after the humiliating restrictions of the Treaty of Versailles. Initially, Beck's vision for a strong military aligned with Hitler's agenda. However, Beck was a traditionalist at heart. He wasn't very happy at the Nazi Party's growing influence within the military. Alongside General Werner von Fritsch, the army's commander-in-chief, Beck fought to preserve the military's independence. Their efforts were short-lived. By 1938, Hitler had solidified his grip on power. First, he purged War Minister Werner von Blomberg on fabricated charges. Then, he orchestrated the removal of Beck's ally, von Fritsch, with another dubious accusation. General Beck found himself dangerously isolated. His dream of a strong traditional German military was fading as Hitler's unchecked power propelled Germany down a path Beck couldn't follow. Despite his initial optimism about the Nazi rise to power, Beck grew increasingly alarmed by Hitler's aggressive foreign policy. He saw it as a gamble that could lead to a disastrous war before Germany was truly ready. This growing concern led Beck to establish his own intelligence network in the mid-1930s. Military attachés provided him with vital information, and some even became conduits for leaking sensitive details, a risky act of defiance. Beck also recruited civilians into his network, with Karl Gordiller being a key figure. These efforts highlighted Beck's determination to stay informed and resist the Nazi regime's growing influence within the military. Events like the 1936 remilitarization of the Rhineland showcased this internal conflict. Beck supported the move, believing it strengthened Germany's position. However, he clashed with Minister von Blomberg over the execution and potential consequences. This clash reflected Beck's belief in calculated aggression, military action undertaken only when Germany had a clear advantage. Hitler's ambitions, however, were far less calculated. In 1938, Beck saw a glimmer of hope when the Blomberg-Fitch crisis erupted. He believed it presented an opportunity to curb the SS's power and restore the traditional military hierarchy. Yet even when he initially supported the invasion of Austria, Beck's approval was contingent on avoiding a wider war. For Beck, Germany's rise to power required strategic planning and calculated risks. He envisioned a powerful German military backed by strong allies, allowing them to engage in limited conflicts to establish dominance. This cautious approach was diametrically opposed to Hitler's increasingly reckless and unpredictable behavior. The seeds of Beck's defiance were firmly planted. His vision for Germany's future was on a direct collision course with Hitler's ruthless ambition. Beck's opposition to Hitler was unwavering, but his options were limited. In August 1938, he made the difficult decision to resign, a form of protest that earned him a promotion to Colonel General on the retired list. But retirement didn't mean retreating from the fight. Beck became a central figure in a covert group of influential individuals opposed to the Nazi regime. This included Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, head of the German military intelligence, who shared Beck's anti-Nazi sentiments. United by their belief that Hitler must be removed, Beck and his growing network began their most dangerous work yet. As early as 1940, they attempted to open communication channels with the Vatican, hoping their influence could help broker a peace deal with the Western Allies. However, their naive belief that Germany could retain its newly conquered territories was met with skepticism by the British. Undeterred, Beck's group even risked treason by warning Belgium of the planned German invasion, hoping to buy time to overthrow Hitler. By 1943, Beck recognized that assassination was the only way to save Germany. This conviction led to multiple attempts on Hitler's life, culminating in the daring July 20th plot of 1944. It was Colonel Klaus von Stauffenberg who planted the briefcase bomb under the conference room table, narrowly missing Hitler. Had this attempt succeeded, Beck was poised to become the head of an interim government, paving the way for free elections. The failed plot signaled the end for Beck. Refusing to abandon Operation Valkyrie, he was arrested, tortured, and ultimately allowed to take his own life. Ludwig Beck's actions are those of a deeply complex man. He began his journey in tentative alliance with a regime he longed to see restore Germany's power, but ultimately gave his life in an attempt to stop its evil. If you found this story compelling, please like, subscribe, share, and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our future content.